Namaskar, greetings everyone, Hare Krishna, and welcome to this episode of readings from Srimad Bhagavat Mahapurana, 10th Canto, Chapter 17. So we've just dealt with the episode of the subjugation of Kaliya. That, that was almost concluded with the end of the chapter, how Krishna had banished him back to Ramanaka Island, and that he should have no more fear of Garuda, his inveterate enemy, because now his head was stamped with Krishna's footprint, and so Garuda would let him go. So anyway, before it actually concludes, though, the king, Maharaj Parikshit, interjects with some points of inquiry, and that's where chapter 17 begins, regarding the antecedents of Kaliya. So I'll say a brief Mangalacharana. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Tam Sa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Nigamakalpatarorgalitam phalam Shukamukadamrita Dravasamyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. Ripe fruit from Scripture's wish-fulfilling tree, distilled from Shuka's lips eloquently. Drink deep this Bhagavat, pure rapture's store, ye connoisseurs on earth forevermore. So, chapter 17, the argument. The king, with pious curiosity, was fain to learn Kaliya's history, and Shuka told him that in days gone by, how Kaliya did Garuda defy. The cowherds, Krishna saves from danger dire, and consumes the first raging forest fire. Such are the themes elaborated here in chapter 17, as you shall hear. The king said, wherefore did Kaliya, the mighty snake, Ramanaka, the serpent realm, forsake? And what hostile action was by him done, that Suparna was wroth with him alone? Sri Shuka said, O king, the serpents had agreement made that votive offerings each month be paid, and laid at the base of a mighty tree, and monthly make tribute severally, in order to secure continued grace of great Suparna on the serpent race. With this arrangement, the serpents comply, but Kadru's son, Kaliya, did defy. He took himself, in pride and insolence, the share, and made to Garuda offense. O king, when mighty Garuda heard the Lord's beloved, his wrath was stirred, with impetuous force he made his way toward Kaliya, determined to slay. Then Garuda, swooping down from above against his wily adversary, drove But Kalia, with upraised hoods defied, brandished his fangs and rose in haughty pride. He bit Suparna as his hoods arise. His his tongue was forky, terrible his eyes. But Madhusudana's mount, Tarkshan's son, did the attack with skill and swiftness shun, and did with his left wing of golden glow upon Kadru's son deal a mighty blow. Thus, struck down by Goldwing's ferocity, Kalia was reduced to misery, and thus defeated and discomfited, here to the Kalindi river he sped, where Garuda to enter was forbid, and thus in safety here the serpent hid. Once, long ago, Garuda had a wish to eat from this same lake a mighty fish. Though soberly did interdiction lay, he was hungry and took it anyway. Observing the fish in their woeful state, the sage soberly felt compassionate, and taking up their cause for pity's sake, and for the general welfare, he spake. If Garuda enters this lake again to eat the fish, his life will not remain. His sudden death will thereupon ensue. Thus I have spoken, and my words are true. Intelligence of this affair was known to none but serpent Kalia alone. Thus, in fear of Garuda, here he dwelt, until by Lord Krishna he was expelled. And then back to the narrative. Meantime, from out the lake Krishna appears, and scents and wreaths and divine garments wears, adorned with fine gems and riches untold, glittering and enchased in ductile gold. Beholding him, his friends, who had remained unconscious, now their vital breath regained. Beside themselves, the cowherds forward pace, and with fond affection, Krishna embrace. Because if you remember, he had been worshipped and offered all kinds of jewels and garments and garlands by Kalia and his wives. So now he's come out of the water in this way. Yashoda, Rohini, Nanda combine with the cowherds, chief of the Kuru line, and hasten in their arms Krishna to strain. Even the dried up trees flourished again. Rama held Achyuta in his arms tight, experiencing excess of delight. Repeatedly to his embrace he drew, who of his love and omnipotence knew. And again upon him gazed. The animals too were to joy upraised, as cows and bulls and calves that there remained, supreme bliss and felicity attained. The learned Vipras and their elder train to Nanda with their worthy spouses came, and said, your son by Kalia was seized, but by blessed fortune he has been released. You should to the twice-born give charity in largesse for Krishna's prosperity. O king, Nanda was well pleased in his mind, and gifts of gold and kine to them consigned. E'en pious Yashoda, who had deplored her loss, was blessed now her son was restored. She held him on her lap in fond embrace, while tears in torrents trickled down her face. Exhausted by the events of the day, that night the cowherds by the river stay. By thirst, O King of Kings, and hunger spent, with all the cows to rest, some distance went. Now, While to rest the cowherds did retire, the wind and parching summer heat conspire. A forest conflagration to ignite, which blazed up in the middle of the night. The cowherds woke up by heat oppressed, and sought refuge with Krishna, sore distressed, who does by his Maya potency seem a son of man, although he is supreme. O Krishna, Krishna highly fortunate, O Rama of the prowess infinite, the raging flames and terrifying gloom, we, your own dear people, will now consume. Protection from this fire of death afford. We are your dear friends, and you are our Lord. We never can forsake, but still adhere to your dear feet that drive away all fear. When the Lord of the universe had heard and seen his devotees' anguish was stirred, his infinite potency he assumed, and then the fire swallowed and consumed. Thus ends chapter 17 in book 10. Now chapter 18. Sri Shuka said, there's no argument for this one, go straight into it. Now Krishna by his friends surrounded came, with his dear relatives who sang his fame, and full of joy and revelry they went back to Braja, the cowherd settlement. The pair in Braja revel in the joys, that means Krishna and Balarama, in guise of ordinary cowherd boys. The season disagreeable now came to bodied creatures called by summer's name. But Vrindavan as quality divine, the signs showed of perpetual springtime, since the illustrious himself appeared as Keshava and as Rama revered. So it's summer. The crickets and the grasshoppers' shrill calls were drowned out by cascading waterfalls. The spray from whence was carried by the breeze, which kept the verdure of the shady trees. The rivers and the lakes were studded o'er with Kanja, Utpala, and Kallara, which are different kinds of lotuses, which tremble in ripples when the breeze strays, and scent through the environment conveys. The inhabitants of the forest there were shaded from Arka's fiery glare. Sun. They were not by the summer's heat oppressed, and with abundance of fresh grass were blessed. The deep bodies of water overbore their sandy banks and moistened all the shore. The hot sun could not scorch with wasting rays, while rivers lap the banks, the water sprays, and thus the heat could by no means contrive the earth of her juicy sap to deprive. The beautiful and charming forest bowers were filled with all varieties of flowers, and did with flora and fauna abound. The birds and beasts and bumblebees resound. The plumy peacocks call with their shrill mew, and the black kokila birds sweetly coo. Almighty Krishna, with a view to play, with Bala and the cowherds makes his way. Arriving there, he plays his flute divine, surrounded by the wealth of herds of kine. Adorned with fresh leaflets and peacock plumes, garlands, rock pigments, and clusters of blooms, Rama and Krishna and the cowherds strayed and danced and sang, and a mock combat played. While Krishna danced, some would accompany with song and music in sweet harmony, with flutes and clapping hands, while others there the glory of his deeds loudly declare. In secret forms the gods appeared on earth, and as rustic cowherders took their birth, like actors, other actors honoring, they worshipped Rama and Krishna, O king, with leaping, throwing down, and whirling round, with blows and slaps, and dragging on the ground. Thus with their friends the brothers sported there, showing their crow-like dark side locks of hair. Sometimes, when others danced, the brothers twain with their own singing raised the dulcet strain. They would themselves play instruments and sing and cry, "Bravo! Well done, O mighty king." At other times they threw and caught with glee big fruits like bilva and amalaki. Sometimes, with eyes blindfolded, they must try to find each other and identify. Sometimes the animals they imitate, sometimes the feathered birds they emulate. Sometimes like leaping frogs along they went, sometimes enjoy laughter and merriment, sometimes they rode upon suspended swings, sometimes they imitate the court of kings. In this manner sported the brothers twain, the wonted games that are well known to fame, and wandered the forests, valleys and hills, the lakes, rivers, the groves and bubbling rills. Now, while Rama and Krishna, with their friends, tending the cattle through the forest wends, a demon, Pralamba, with the foul aim to kidnap them in form of cowherd came. Almighty Dasarha could penetrate his guides, but feigned friendship to cultivate, while thinking of what means he might contrive the demon vile of his life to deprive. Now Krishna, the past master of all games, calls all the cowherds and to them proclaims, "Dear comrades, let us our group in two divide, with combatants disposed on either side." Rama and Janardana took the lead. The cowherds joined either side as agreed, whereupon some on Krishna's side remained, some chose Rama and unto his side came. The boys all join in the sportive affray, where vanquished on their shoulders must convey the victors to a certain place and then resume the playful mock combat again. Thus carrying and being carried, they, while tending the cattle, pursue their way. With Krishna in the lead, the cowherds came to the great tree, Bandiraka by name. Sri Dhamma and Vrishabha in the course with Rama's party were victorious. Thus Krishna's party had to carry them, defeated in the game, O King of Men. Almighty Krishna, having lost the game, carried Sri Dhamma. And while Bhadrasen bore Vrishabha, Pralamba chose to be the bearer of the son of Rohini. Thinking Krishna too strong for the attack, the demon carried Rama on his back. And thus in eager haste he took to flight, beyond the place where his mount should alight. Thus bearing him, who himself bears the weight of all the world, the demon did abate his speed, and casting off the form assumed, his own colossal body reassumed. Gold ornaments flashed lightning in the gloom, and seemed a dark cloud carrying the moon. Beholding that form of colossal might, dilated to a giant's lofty height, it seemed that he was ranging through the skies, with fiery fury blazing in his eyes. Its awful fangs extend and seem to grow toward its contracted and beetling brow. Its loosened hair, like raging fire, blazed. The wielder of the plough was quite amazed. Its earrings, armlets, and crown glittered bright. Rama was somewhat frighted at the sight. Then suddenly his memory was clear, and Bala put aside his slightest fear. He realized that his enemy strove himself from his companions to remove. Enraged thereat, he smote him on the head with his clenched fist, whereat he then fell dead. Like heaven's Lord when striking down a hill with thunder, Rama did the demon kill. Haribol. The demon's skull was crushed. He tumbled o'er, unconscious, vomiting up blood and gore. And down he fell dead with a roaring sound, and lifeless lay prostrate upon the ground. As when the cloud compeller, much annoyed, with blazing thunder, the mountains destroyed. Observing how Pralamba had been killed, the cowherds were with vast wonderment filled. How by his power mighty Bala won the victory and cried, "Bravo! Well done!" They showered blessings on him and upraised his glory, who is right worthy of praise, and with fond affection embraced the Lord, who seemingly from death had been restored. The gods were jubilant and gratified. Now that the sinful Pralamba had died, they praised Bala's great deed and raised the cry, "Well done!" and showered garlands from the sky. Thus ends chapter 18. I'll read one more at least. Chapter 19, there's no argument for this. So if you remember, the last chapter began with a short description of the summer and how, despite it being a tormenting heat time, Braja was like spring. Sri Shuka
Please
said,
don't stop, by the way. Just keep going on because we're all with you. Just don't feel you
okay,
have to stop. Okay.
all right, very well. Sri Shuka said, while the cowherd boys were engrossed in play, the cows had strayed and wandered far away, and into a darksome forest they pass, urged on by greed to taste the new-grown grass. The cows and goats and buffaloes had strayed from forest to forest and gloomy glade, and entered a cane grove, by heat oppressed, and thirsty, cried and bellowed, sore distressed. When the cowherds observed the kine were lost, in remorse and consternation were tossed. With Rama and Krishna they trace each spot, but after a long search they found them not. They pursue the path as duty behooves, ensuing broken grass and prints of hooves, and followed the path leading through the wood, deploring much their loss of livelihood. Thereon into a munja grove they passed, and found the weeping herds of kine at last. Relieved, but exhausted and thirsty, they conduct the herds of kine homeward away. The Almighty, with his sonorous voice, whereat the cows bellow loud and rejoice, like a cloud rumbled and called them by name. They lowed responsive and toward him came. Shabali, Dabali, etc. Then suddenly a conflagration blazed. The wind like its chariot driver, raised the flaming tongues that threatened to devour the creatures who inhabited the bower. The raging flames and sparks and smoky gloom, all mobile and immobile, would consume, as all around the conflagration blazed. In dread the cows and cowherds fearful gazed. They came to Bala and to Krishna in grief, and urged the brothers to afford relief, as those in mortal fear and misery seek refuge in the Supreme Lord Hari. O Krishna, Krishna of the potent might, Rama of taintless power infinite, O save us, Lord, who come as refugees. We are your own surrendered devotees. Certainly your friends should not suffer so, O Krishna, you who all righteousness know. As suppliants, from you succor we crave. You are our Lord, and therefore deign to save. Sri Shuka said, hearing the expression of misery of his friends, the Almighty Lord Hari addressed his friends in accents firm and clear. Now keep your eyes shut tight and have no fear. With very well, they shut their fearful eyes. The Almighty then to the task did rise, and as master of mystic power, he drank up the flames and set his dear friends free. Now, when they had their eyes opened once more, found themselves at Bandira as before, they were surprised and wonder-struck to see themselves and all the cows from danger free. Observing Krishna's potency and might, and effects of his power infinite, how from the forest fire they were freed, they thought him an immortal god indeed. Now, as the afternoon drew on apace, Rama and Janardana their way retrace, playing the flute, and praised by his dear friends, driving the herds of cattle homeward wends. The cowherd damsels took supreme delight when they of Lord Govinda had the sight, deprived of which a brief moment appears tedious as 100 million years. That thus ends chapter 19, so I'll read chapter 20, because this is really quite far out. And then I'll finish off after that, because then it goes on to another theme, so to speak. Then we were introduced more definitely to the Madhura Rasa. So we'll finish with this one, chapter 20. Sri Shuka said, the cowherds, to their women folk relate the most amazing deeds, reiterate how they were saved from the conflagration, how Pralamba also to death was done, which hearing elder cowherds weighed the odds. Amazed, they weened the brothers foremost gods, that Rama and Krishna with some intent made dwelling in the cowherd settlement. And now the rainy season did appear, affording sustenance, bringing good cheer. The accumulation of clouds drew nigh, thunder rumbled, and lightning lit the sky. Thick laden clouds involved the firmament, and the thunder forky lightning flashes sent, e'en as the attributes Brahman enshrouds. The sky was concealed by dense gloomy clouds. 8 months Parjanya did earth's moisture drain, and the wealth of the waters did retain, which by his own rays gathered and increased. Now in due season the waters released. The clouds wherein the waters were confined were rent by lightning, scattered by the wind, and thus the cloud to pleasure give contrives, as those who for others lay down their lives. So when the clouds have given all their rain, they're not there anymore. The earth was emaciated by scorching pain, but now the God propitious sent the rain, and those who penance do in the pursuit of desire attain the wished for fruit. The gloomy evening was lit by the light of fireflies, hiding the stars from sight. As Kali age abounds in heresy, the Vedas languish in obscurity. The loquacious frogs had been silent long, but with the rumbling clouds broke out in song. As Brahmins in silence perform each rite, the lesson, when the teacher calls, recite. The streams overbore their wonted courses, e'en as a man who wastes his resources and does not for security provide, his wealth, like the water, away doth glide. The verdure of the grass shone luscious green, bright red insects and white mushrooms were seen, and the earth, like a wealthy man, appeared with liveried servants, parasols reared. The laboured fields their wealth of grains afford, which does with joy cultivators reward. But the proud and the vain still fail to see how everything is ruled by destiny. The water and the land dwellers were pleased, now that abundance of water increased, and showed new lustre and fairest beauty, as those who render service to Hari. The rivers disembowed into the sea. Disembowed, that means they empty out. The rivers disembowed into the sea, by wind and waves driven relentlessly, e'en as a yogini's mind in turbulence of desire is drawn to indulgence. The mountains, by the beating rains assailed, in their weight and preponderance prevailed, as those who to contemplation adhere of adhoxaja are relieved of fear. The roads and byways were quite overgrown with vegetation and could not be known as texts by the twice-born, no more in use, in the course of time have become abstruse. The clouds to all the world's firm friendship bear, the restless lightning flitted here and there. E'en as a wanton wench a good man flies, although he be well accomplished and wise. The painted bow of Indra, mighty lord, was in the attributes but had no cord. As evolutes by gunas are evolved, the Purusha is ever uninvolved. There's word punning in that verse which you wouldn't understand if just by the translation. But guna means the attributes, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Guna also means a cord or a string. So the painted bow of Indra, mighty lord, was in the attributes, within the gunas, but had no guna, cord. As evolutes by gunas are evolved, the Purusha is ever uninvolved, the self. The moon's own light was dispersed by the clouds, which its own native radiance enshrouds, as by the ego sense of I and mine, the Purusha does by his own light shine. With the arrival of a laden cloud, the peacocks celebrate and mew aloud, as householders at times in sorrow live, delight when Achyuta's dear ones arrive. The thirsty trees drank water through their roots, with foliage flourish and sprout new shoots, as those who arduous penance maintain emaciate their wished-for objects gain. The cranes beside the troubled lakes remain, although lashed, O dear one, by driving rain, as worldly men disturbance tolerate, and remain in their houses obstinate. When the Lord sent the rains and boundaries yield, and a deluge spreads out across the field, as heretics their false doctrines profess in Kali's age, and the Vedas transgress. The clouds, impelled by winds, the waters pour, and open up to creatures all their store, as when a king from twice-born ones receives orders, from time to time charity gives. The forest, thus resplendent, radiates in the rains with ripe jambu fruits and dates, surrounded by their cows and cowherd friends, hurry with Bala through the forest wens. The cattle ramble slow and ruminate, burdened by their distended udders' weight. But when the Almighty called them by name, with love and dripping udders hasty came. The Lord beheld the tribal women there. He saw the honey-dripping forest fair. The mountain spring with crystal water flows, re-echoing in caves and dark grottos. Whenever it poured down a heavy shower, he rested in a tree hollow or bower, and partook of bulbs and esculent roots, and varieties of sweet, mellowed fruits. With tasty rice and yogurt sent from home, he sat down by the water on a stone, with Sankarsana and the cowherd boys, a forest banquet with them all enjoys. The Almighty thus spent the monsoon days, pleased to observe the cows on fresh grass graze, who with their heavy udders sat content, while calves and bulls hither and thither went. He thus delighted the wealth to behold of the monsoon season's charms unfold, the season he adores as it revolves, which from his inherent power evolves. Thus Rama and Keshava dwelt content in the delightful cowherd settlement, and now the Sharat season did appear, when wind is soft, the sky and water clear. When the grateful Sharat season arrives, the lotus in the clear water revives. The rivers were now free of taint and stain, like relapsed yogis who strive once again. The Sharat season cleared the sky of clouds and freed the creatures in congested crowds. The muddy ground was dried and the debris was cleared, as orders of society are blessed by the love of Krishna Hari. The clouds, now emptied of their store, shine bright. The fleecy cumulus was pure and white, as sages who forsake desire and greed are pacified, content, and from sin freed. Somewhere the mountain torrents flow on by, elsewhere the flowing brooks and streams are dry. As the wise men sometimes wisdom reveal, at other times their wisdom they conceal. The flashing fishes in the shallow pools were unaware, like worldly-minded fools, who day by day are ignorant of fate. By slow degrees the pools evaporate. The fish in shallow water were oppressed, and by Arka's hot beams were much distressed, as the poor family man undergoes, with senses uncontrolled, troublesome woes. Then, little by little, the mud was dry, and plants their mellow, juicy fruits supplied, as those who forsake the sense of I and mine, as distinct from the true pure self divine. In the Sharat season, the sea was still, the streams and water bodies were tranquil, as the sage who does no longer engage in action nor study of scripture's page. That probably means just Upanishads. The farmers in the fields strong dikes construct to retain water and the flow conduct, as those who practice the breath to withhold, restrained by yoga discipline controlled. The Sharat Arka torments with his blaze all creatures till the moon sheds his balmy rays, as one who no more self as body claims, or as Mukunda relieves Braja's days. The stars now sprinkle and sparkle in the cloudless sky, and a pleasing and lambent light supply, e'en as the mind, freed from impurities, perceives the purport of Scripture's decrees. Amid the shining stars and glowing bright, the Sharat season moon sheds his fair light, as even the great Yadu's Lord divine among the Yadus prominent doth shine. The temperate breeze through the forest strayed, embracing with its scent the woody shade, to all except the cowherd dames imparts relief, since Krishna had stolen their hearts. The cows, the does, each female bird and beast, and women felt fecundity increased, and followed by their males in hot pursuit, as service to the Lord bears worthy fruit. The Sarat sun brings lotuses to bloom, but the night lilies wither and consume, as when a king, O king, subjects relieves, the country is diminished of its thieves. The towns and villages made sacrifice to celebrate and taste the new grown rice, and thus the earth with lavish store appeared, as but a part of the two lords revered. The merchants, students, kings, and holy men resume their diverse works and tasks again, from impediments free their ways pursue, and perfection attain in season due. Thus ends chapter 20 of book 10 of the great and glorious Bhagavad Purana. Is that enough?
Is that where you wanted to conclude that you're reading today? Was this? Is this a specific? It's you've finished a whole section now.
Yeah, it would be nice to start a new section with the next chapter.
Okay, okay.
Then
I'll just
Gita.
okay. I'll turn the recording off then. Okay.